interface. In Java, multiple inheritance concept is achieved through interface concept. Why here one new concept interface was introduced for multiple inheritance means in C++, diamond problem is occurred while we implement multiple inheritance. Do you know the diamond problem? Do you know the diamond problem? What is called the diamond problem?
Explain once, ma'am.
Okay.
Duplicate.
Duplicate. Here I have a class A and it have a data member int A. Int A. And then I have class B, and then I have one more class C. This both B and C are inherited from class A. Both B and C are inherited from class A. Now, what is this type of inheritance? This type of inheritance is hierarchical. Okay, ma. And now, one more class that is inherited from both B and C. So, this is a multiple inheritance. That is inherited from both B and C. So, this is multiple inheritance. But now, when I'm creating object for this B class, when I'm creating object for this A class, how many bytes will be allocated? For integer, if you take it 4 bytes now. For integer, if you take it 4 bytes now, how many bytes will be allocated for A? A type, tell me, ma'am.
4, ma'am.
4 bytes. Now, if I am creating object for B class, how many bytes will be allocated? For B class, if I am 4 bytes. For C class, if I am creating object, how many bytes will be allocated?
4, ma'am.
4. For a D class, if I am creating object, how many bytes will be allocated?
8 bytes. 8 bytes.
8 bytes. Actually, this A is inherited through B and this A member is inherited through C. So 8 bytes. So here the duplication is occurred. No? So this is called the diamond problem. This is called a diamond problem. So to avoid that diamond problem in C++, we have used the concept virtual base class. Have you remembered that one? We have to use the keyword virtual. So while I'm inheriting B from A, I have to use the keyword virtual. Like when I'm inheriting C from A, I have to use the keyword virtual. Have you remembered that one? Virtual base class concept. To avoid the diamond problem in C++, we used virtual keyword. Have you remembered that? Have you remember or not, ma?
Yes, ma'am.
But instead of virtual keyword here, we're going to use one new concept called interface. We're going to use one new concept called interface. Okay, so this is nothing but a blueprint of a class. Interface is nothing but blueprint of a class. So here I have a static constant. Initially, before JDK 8. So before JDK 8, they have only introduced the static constant and the abstract method in interface. In interface, only static constant and abstract methods are allowed. From JDK 8, they have introduced 2 more methods, but the methods are default and static method. So this is from JDK 1.8. From JDK 1.8, they have introduced 2 new methods in interface. So initially in interface, we can have only constant data member, constant static data member and abstract method alone in interface before JDK 1.8. So from JDK 1.8, they have introduced 2 more methods in interface. That methods are default and static. From JDK 1.9, they have introduced another 2 more methods. That method are private method and private static method. Actually, here I have not mentioned. 2 more methods. That method are private and the private static method that was introduced from JDK 1.9. So if you make it any method static, any variable static final means, then memory is created only once. If this int A is the static means, if int A is the static means, when I'm creating object for this B class bar, so you assume here I have one more object, int B. Here I have one more object, int C. Int C. And here I have one more object, int D. To assume in B class I have one object, and in C class one data member. C in D class I have one data member. So now this int A is non-static. So now you tell me how many bytes will be allocated for A type. How many bytes will be allocated for A type? How many bytes will be allocated for A type?
4.
4. So for B type, for A 4 bytes is allocated, and also for its own data member B 4 bytes is allocated. So totally 8 bytes is allocated for B. Now for C, 8 bytes is allocated. 4 bytes for that A data member and the C, its own data member C, 4 bytes. So totally 8 bytes is allocated. So like for D now how many bytes will be allocated means 12 bytes is allocated. For D, how many bytes is allocated? 12, no, not 12. 16 bytes is allocated. Am I correct or not? For this B, 4 byte is allocated. For this C, 4 byte is allocated. And then here A, and here also A. So 8, 8, 16. 16 plus 4, 20. 4, 4, 8, 8, 8, 16, 20. Am I correct or not? 20 byte will be allocated for B. Am I correct or not? Say yes or no, ma? You are all get confused, ah?
Ma'am, can you repeat once, ma'am?
Right. This A have its own data member, ma. That is A, integer data member. A. And then B is also have its own data member. That is, we will assume that is B. B. And C is also have one data member, its own data member, that is C. So now both A, B and C are inherited from class A. And one more class D, so that is also have its own data member D. When I am creating object for A class, how many bytes will be allocated? Only A class have A data member. So only 4 bytes is allocated for A data type. Now for B data type, how many bytes will be allocated? That A is also inherited here, no? So for that A 4 byte and its own data member B. For the B 4 byte. So totally how many bytes will be allocated for B type? 8 bytes.
8 bytes.
For C, how many bytes will be allocated?
8 bytes.
Now for D, this A is inherited through B, and also this A is inherited through C. So totally 4 plus 4, 8 for that A data member. And then for this B, 4 byte, 12 plus C 4 byte, 16, and then its own data member D 4 byte. Totally 20 bytes is allocated for D, no? For type D, how many bytes will be allocated? Am I correct or not, ma? Say yes or no, ma?
Yes, ma'am.
Totally 20 bytes is allocated. So here that A is duplicated. That A is copied twice. One is through B, another one is through C. But if this is static, if this A is static, now you tell me how many bytes will be allocated for B, pa? If this A, that class A have one data member A, no? If that A is static means how many bytes will be allocated for B data type, pa? B type. Only 4 byte, because only 4 byte, because static data member all inherited, and only one time only memory is created for static, that is shared by all the classes. Okay, so now for B type 4 byte is allocated, for C type 4 byte is allocated, for D type how many bytes will be allocated, no? For D type
12
byte is allocated. For B, very good, 12 byte is allocated. So that's why in interface all the data members are all by default static constant. So all the data members are all by default static constant. So then here duplication is avoided by declaring static. How here the duplication is avoided means by declaring the data member as static. Even if you are mentioned nothing, automatically this is taken as static in interface. Understood? In interface, all the data members are all static constant. Clear or not? Clear or not? Say yes or no, ma? So to avoid the duplication in interface concept, all the data members are all taken as static constant. Got it or not, pa?
Okay, ma'am.
And also they have initially they have interface means just a skeleton, ma. So that's why it's our only abstract method. So it does not have an implementation. Abstract method, there is no implementation. So initially they have introduced the interface concept with only static constant and only with abstract method. But from JDK 1.8, they have introduced two methods. That methods are called default method and static method. We will see that method later. And from 1.9, from JDK 1.9, they have introduced another 2 methods. That methods are private method and private static method. Private method and private static method. So initially interface was introduced with only abstract method alone. But from JDK 1.8, they have introduced 2 more methods. That method are default and static method. And from JDK 1.9, they have introduced another 2 methods. That is private method and private static method. We will see all 4 methods later. But now you just know what are the things are available in interface. Understood, Appa? Understood or not, ma? Say yes or no, pa?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So a mechanism to achieve fully abstraction can be only abstract method. From JDK 8, static and the default methods are allowed. So Java compiler adds public and abstract keyword before the interface method, and public static and final keywords before data members data members. If you have mentioned, if you are defined, if you are declared any variable in interface, automatically compiler will add, what are the keywords compiler will add? Public, static, final for data member. For data member, compiler automatically add these three keywords: public, static, final. And then if you declare any method, automatically the compiler add the two keywords public and abstract. So only public is possible. Any other access specifier, private, protected, default are not allowed. Here an interface, the syntax of interface. Usually class means you have to use the keyword class. No? So like for interface, you have to use the keyword interface bar and then interface name. Here I have declared one data member. So here I have mentioned nothing, public and final, but compiler automatically add the two keyword public and public, static, final. Compiler automatically add the three keywords for this data member that are all public, static, final. Okay, public, static, constant. Okay, so here I have declared a method, but compiler automatically add two keyword in front of this method. So that is public and abstract. That is public and abstract. So after compilation, so the compiler will change the variable as public, static, final, and then the method as public, abstract, void. Got it, Appa? Say yes or no, ma?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, ma. Okay, thank you, pa. And then next, ma, if one class is inherited from another class means we have to use the keyword extends. If one class is inherited from another class means we have to use the keyword extends. If if a class is inherited from interface means, if class is inherited from interface means we have to use the keyword implements. We have to use the keyword implements, ma. If one interface is inherited from another interface means then you have to use the keyword extends. So here class, so this class is inherited from interface means you have to use implements. Here interface, so this interface are all going to be inherited from interface means we have to use the keyword extends. Okay, ma. So these are all multiple inheritance example, ma. These are all multiple inheritance. So here this class is inherited from two interface. So this is the multiple inheritance concept. So this is also multiple inheritance concept. One interface is inherited from two interface. So this is an example for multiple inheritance. Ma, got it, Appa? Say yes or no, ma? Understood or not, pa?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. A class is inherited from interface means you have to use implements. If one interface is inherited from another interface means you have to use extends. If one class is inherited from another class means you have to use the keyword extends. Here, why multiple inheritance is not supported to class in Java means because of the diamond problem. Already I have explained, no, ma? Because of this diamond problem only, here the multiple inheritance is achieved through interface, because in interface all the data members are all public, static, final. All the data members are all public, static, final. So here there is no possible for duplication. So here there is no possibility for duplication. So that's why because of this diamond problem in Java we are using the concept interface. Next, implementing interface. So we will see how to implement that interface. So interface members are all public, by default public, but from JDK 1.9 they have introduced two functions. The two function can be private, that is a private static and private method. But other than the two methods, all the members are all public. All the members are all public. And then interface can be public or default. So classes also can be public or default. Only inner class can be private, protected, public, default. But outer class should be only two access specifier. Outer classes are all can be only with the two access specifier, public and default. The same case, the interfaces also can be public or default. So if interface is an inner interface means then that can be public, private, protected, and default. Okay, so if you are not specify anything, then it becomes default. Here I am nothing I have mentioned. So here class name and then interface keyword and then interface name. So here nothing I have mentioned. So what is the access specifier of this interface? What is the access specifier of this interface?
Default.
Default.
And here this is by default this method is taken as abstract method by default. So here I have just given void callback, but automatically compiler include the two keyword. The keyword are public and abstract. And then abstract method has only signature. The abstract method does not have a definition. But Here, if I try to just write int semicolon means you will get an error. If you will get error. So you should mention the parameter name also. While you declare the abstract method, you should mention the parameter name. Otherwise, you will get an error. So only int use, it will show error. That is identifier expector. Got it? Even that abstract method does not have definition. You should mention the parameter name while you declare the method. Otherwise, you will get error. Got it? Say yes or no, ma? Yes or no? Understood? Okay. And next, here I have created one class. So that class is implements from this interface. So now this class is inherited from that interface. So usually that is called implements from that interface. So that's why we have to use the keyword implements and then that interface. So here this is a class and this is an interface. So if any class that is inherited from interface means, if any class that is inherited from interface means, what keyword we need to use, What keyword we need to use?
Implements.
Implements. So, okay, so that's why here implements is used. So now this class is inherited from that interface callback. And then next, if I not override this callback method within this class client, what will happen? If I am not override that method callback in client class, what will happen? If I am not override the callback method in client class, what will happen?
That will also become abstract class.
The client class has also become an abstract class. So to avoid that, because this callback, this function, this method is the abstract method. So now this client is implement from the callback. So then that abstract method is also inherited. So if you are not overridden, then this class is also have an abstract method. Then you have to make it this client as the abstract. So when you implement an interface method, it must be declared as public. Otherwise, it will show the following error. Here, instead of a public, if I just override void callback, what will happen means you will get an error, because what is the syntax of this callback in interface? What is the call? It's a full signature of this callback in interface.
Public abstract void
callback. Yeah. So now while you override, you should override with the public access specifier. Otherwise, if I am not mention anything, what we will get means you will get an error. So what the attempting to assign weaker access privileges was public. So while you override, you should override with the same access specifier, with the same access specifier public. Otherwise, you will get an error. Attempting to assign weaker access privileges was public. So when you implement an interface method, it must be declared as public, or otherwise it will show the following error. Got it, Appa? So here, tell me,
But that void callback in parameter, if we compile that, it will call like a public static void callback, no ma'am. Then
Yes,
it is a static function, no ma'am.
No,
Then how
no.
can it be override?
No, method is not a static bar. Only member data alone static. Member data alone static. That method is here. This is member data. So this member data is added with the static keyword, public static signer. This is method. So for this method, only public and abstract alone added, not static.
Okay, ma'am.
Got it? Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So here you need to remember two things. While you declare a function, while you declare a method within interface, you should declare with the parameter name. You should declare with the parameter name. If there is no name, you will get an error. And then while you override that interface method, you should override with the public access specifier. Otherwise, you will get error. Partial implementation. Partial implementation means here I have a class, I have a method callback. So this callback is the abstract method by default. So here this class is called incomplete. That is partial implementation class, because I'm not overridden this method callback within this class. I'm not overridden this callback within this class. So that's why I have made this class as the abstract. So this is called partial implementation. This is called partial implementation. Got it, Appa? Got it, Anatma?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay, ma'am. Here the class incomplete does not implement callback and must be declared as the abstract. So any class that inherits incomplete must implement callback or be declared that class is also to be abstract. And then nested interface, Nested interface means if the interface within a class or within an interface means that is called a nested interface. So an interface can be declared a member of a class. Such an interface is called a member interface or nested interface. A nested interface can be declared as public, private, protected, and default. but outer interface means only two access specifier are possible, that is public and the default. Here class A. So within the class A, I have one interface. So that interface name is nested interface, IF, nested interface. Here class A. So within the class A, I have one interface. So now this interface is the member of the class A. And now within this interface, I have only one abstract method. So that abstract method, the return type is Boolean and then is not negative. Function name is, method name is not negative. Now if I am not written X, what will happen? If I just write int, what will happen? Without this X, if I am written, what will happen?
Error, ma'am.
Error. So you should mention the parameter name. And next, I have created one more class B. So that implements this interface, but this interface is a member of class A, no? So then I cannot directly write a nested. I cannot directly write the name. I have to write that outer class name dot that interface. Got it, Appa? If I want to implement the nested interface means, how I have to implement means outer class name dot interface name. Got it, Abba? Say yes or no, ma?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And next, within this class, I have override this method. I have override this method is not negative. And then if value less than 0 means, if value is less than 0 means it will return false. If value is greater than 0, it will return true. Okay. So now within main function, I try to create object for the B class. And this object is stored in the base class reference. So here actually base class is nothing but that interface. So interface reference. So you can write in like this also. You won't get any problem. But you can also store derived class object in base interface reference. You can also store derived class object in base interface reference. Got it, Abba? So you can write in this way also, but you need to know. So that's why I have given here one more statement. Here the derived class object can also be stored in the base interface reference. Now this is an interface. And this is an interface reference. So in interface reference, I can store the derived class object. Got it, Abba? Got it, Abba? Say yes or no, ma? Understood, Abba?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma. Okay, ma. Thank you, pa. And then here is not negative 10. So now this will call this function. So if it is positive now, it will return true. If it is negative now, this function will return false. So if it is written true means then the statement is executed. So 10 is not negative. But now for this one, that function will return false. So then this statement won't be printed. The statement won't be printed. So only we will get output 10 is negative, not negative. This two statement is visible, the last two statement, output statement.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So 10 is not negative. And then what is the difference between abstract class and interface? What is the difference between abstract class and interface means? Abstract class can have abstract method and also non-abstract method. But here in interface, all the methods are abstract method before JDK 1.8. But from JDK 1.8, they have introduced two non-abstract method in interface concept also. That methods are default method and static method. So we will see that method later. And from JDK 1.9, they have introduced another non-abstract method, another two non-abstract method. That method are private method and private static method. So we will see these four methods later. So in JDK 1.8, two methods were introduced. From JDK 1.9, two methods were introduced. So the 1.8, the methods are default method and static method. From 1.9, they have introduced a private method and private static method. So abstract class does not support a multiple inheritance, but interface support multiple inheritance. So abstract class can have a final, non-final, static and non-static variable, but in interface, all the data members are all static final variables only. And then abstract class can have static method, main method, and the constructor. But interface can have static method, default method, abstract method, and two more method that is introduced from JDK 1.9, that is a private method and private static method. And then abstract class can have provide the implementation of interface. Interface cannot provide the implementation of abstract class. In abstract class can provide the implementation of interface, but interface cannot provide the implementation of abstract class. And then the abstract keyword is used, but here that interface the keyword is used. Okay. Now from JDK 1.8, they have introduced one new method called the default method. So now we will see the default method. Before JDK 1.8, that abstract interface are only act as a skeleton. The skeleton means only function declarations are there. There is no function body. So because all the methods of that interface are only abstract method. But from JDK 1.8, they have introduced two methods. That method can have a definition. That method have a definition. So that method is called the default method and static method. So the default method was also referred to as an extension method. The default method can also be called as extension method. So declaration is preceded by keyword default. Actually, this default is not an access specifier. You don't confuse this default as the access specifier. So this default is just a keyword. This default is just a keyword. It is not an access specifier. Okay. And then here I have an interface, my interface. Here I have one abstract method, and here this is a non-abstract method. So this method is the default method. So here you should use this keyword default. Actually, this is not access specifier. So here this is a keyword. So here this interface have non-abstract method and the non-abstract method. So this non-abstract method is the default method. Okay, so now what this function will do means this function will return default string. This function is going to return the string default string. And now I have created one class. So that class is implement from that interface, my interface. So that class is implement from my interface. And now I have override this method. If I'm not override this method, what will happen? If I'm not override this get number method, what will happen?
We cannot create object.
We cannot create
in the default method demo.
Yes, we cannot create object for the class, so we have to make it the class is also abstract. If I not override that get number is the abstract. So that abstract is inherited here. So if I am not override, then I have to make it that this class is the abstract class. So here this function will just return the value 100. So another class. Default method demo. So within that I have a main function. Here I'm creating object for that class. Here I'm creating object for this class, my IF implementation. And then here obj.get number. Actually, this is an abstract method. So I have overridden here. So now control will come to here, and then it will return 100. So now 100 will be printed. But here next I am calling the default method. I'm calling the default method. Actually, this get string was not available here. Get string was not available here. But it will call. So it will call that base interface method. So base interface method, what we are returning just a default string. So it will print default string. So output of this program is 100 and default string. Got it, Appa? Got it, Appa?
Yes, ma'am.
Like we can also override this default method also in derived class. We can also override the default method also in derived class. The next example. We will see the next example. Here get number is an abstract method, and this is a default method. So this can have a definition, but this abstract method cannot have definition. The default method can have a definition. So here what it will return? It will return default string. And now I have created one class. That class is implemented from this interface, my interface. Okay, and here I have override the method get number, and that method returning value 100. And then here I overridden that method get string. In the previous example, I have not overridden. In this example, I have overridden that the default method get string. While you override, you should use a public. While you override, you should use public. Actually, what is the access specifier of this one? You don't confuse. This default is not an access specifier. It's just a keyword. But what is the access specifier of this get string method? What is the access specifier of this get string method?
Public, ma'am.
This get number access specifier is also by default public. No? So that's why while you override, you should use public string get string. So this will return. This is different as string. So in main function, I'm creating object for this class. So by using this class object, I'm going to call the get number. So now this method, the control will come to here, and now then 100 value is returned. So now 100 is printed here. And next part, now obj.getString. So here I have two getString method. One is in base interface, another one is in the derived class. So now which class method is which getString method is invoked? This method invoked or this overridden method is invoked? Got it, Amma? You understood my question, Arapa?
Overridden method.
Overridden method is invoked. So now it will print this is a different string. And then next interface. This is an example for multiple inheritance. Actually, have interface inter main. From that A, B, this is hierarchical. This is our diamond. Actually, the diamond class. First, interface main is created. Inter main. First one interface main, inter main. Inter main. Okay, I cannot write full name. Inter main. And then next, I have I have created one more interface A. This is also interface, and this is also interface. So then, what I have to use for inheritance? Here, extends. If this A is the class, now what I have to use? Implement. Okay. Now B. Okay. So this is a hierarchical inheritance. And next, one more class. That class name is called new interface IMPL. This class name is new interface IMPL. So that is inherited from both A and B. Now this A and B are interface, and this this classes here this is class and this A and B are interface. So that's why here what we have to use? We have to use implements. This is multiple inheritance. So in Java, the multiple inheritance is only achieved through interface concept. Got it, Appa? Up to this you understood, Amma?
Yes, ma'am.
So now in main function, I'm creating object for this class. I'm creating object for this class, and then within that, I'm calling that foo method, obj.foo method. So control, because this is a default method only. So default method, so I can call by using object and dot operator. So control will come to here. Then it will print a calling inter main foo. Got it, Appa? Got it, Anatma? Say yes or no, Appa?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, if you override in B and C.
If you override the same method in A and B, what will happen?
It will call B, ma'am.
No, ma. Here I have an example. No, so in interface I have a same method foo, and this A is inherited from this interface. No, this is also have same default method. Ma. This also have same default method with the same name. And then so this B interface have nothing. And now from main function, I try to call obj.foo means now which function is invoked means now A class foo only invoked. I will show you next example. B is also have the same method. What will happen? I will explain. Now this one you understood. Now which class will be? Here I have an inter main. So in the inter main I have one function. Say I have one function foo, and I in A class also I have same function foo. And from one class, the class is implemented from class A. So now which foo method is invoked? This A class foo method is only invoked. This example you understood. This example you understood, Anatpa? I will explain next with the both class have foo method. What will happen? I will explain it next. This one you understood, Amma?
Ma'am, on show
Yes,
previous slide, no, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Here I don't have foo method, ma. In this class I don't have foo method. So in the next example, I have foo method also in the same interface A. So when I'm creating object for this class, while I'm calling the foo method, which class method is invoked now? Which interface method is invoked now? Then that is the derived class method. Derived class method is only invoked, ma. Got it, Anatma? Here there is no foo method, so that's why when I'm creating object for this class, which foo method is invoked means this foo method is invoked.
Okay, ma'am.
But here I have override the method. The default method can be override. Default method can be override. Okay, only static method only cannot be override. This is a default method, so default method can be override. Got it, Abba?
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
In next example, in A class I don't have foo method, but in B class I have B interface I have a foo method. So now which method is invoked? This method or this method? The derived class. So the derived class method only invoked, so it will print this method. Okay, and then next now both class are have method. Now, if both class are have foo method, you should override the foo method in the class in this new interface implementation. Otherwise, you will get an error. I will show you next program. I will show you that in the next program. Understood, Amma? So here I have a foo method, and I have override the foo method in A class and also B class. The structure you need to understand. So first the inter main. So this inter main I have one method. Inter main. I cannot write fast by using this pen. Inter main. Inter main, and now from this A is inherited. from this A is inherited, and then B is inherited, B is inherited, and then C. C, no, that name is a new interface implement, ma, actual new. Ma, now I have one method foo, default method foo in this class, and also I have one method, same method, I have override foo here, and then I also override foo method here. So now what will happen? If I try to create an object for this class, if I am calling foo method, I will get an error. So that time what I have to do, I should override that method foo method in this class also. So then only I won't get an error, ma. Got it, Appa? Got it or not, ma?
Okay.
Actually, to avoid these problems and all, only in Java they have introduced that interface concept with only abstract method. But later from JDK 1.8, they have introduced the default method. So when they are introduced the default method, again they are getting the same problem. Got it? Why they have introduced that interface problem? To avoid the duplication, and to avoid the duplication. So here, when we have an implementation in interface, when we have an implementation method, while I am override, I will get some problem. So to avoid that, only they have introduced initially with the abstract method, but later they have introduced method with the implementation, that is a default. But got it, Amma? Got it or not, ma? Say yes or no, pa?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you are not override the foo method in this class, what will happen? You will get an error. You will get an ambiguity error, ma. So I will show you one example here. Here this class have foo method, and I have override this method here, and also I have override in B class. But in this class I have not overridden that foo method. In this class I have not overridden the foo method. But by creating object for this class, I am calling that foo method. I will get an error. So here it is showing error. Error class new interface from inherit unrelated default for foo from type A and B. So you get an error, So understood, Appa? While I am compiling this code, I will get an error. Say sir, Mama, understood that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now what time now, ma? Okay, pa. So we will see the remaining concept in next class, ma. Up to the